Hello, Internet. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
The University of Utah finishes their game versus Weber State, and let's look ahead to the UCLA Bruins.
And in Major League Baseball, who's hot and who's not? All that and more. My name is Darren. That is AJ, and this is the DNA Sports Recap.
Roll the intro.
How's it going, AJ?
I'm doing good, buddy. Doing really good. Been a busy week, man. How about you?
Oh, it's been a busy week. Absolutely. For sure. And for those folks who are listening on audio only on podcasts, we would like to apologize for the audio quality. We're not in, for those folks who are watching on YouTube, we're obviously not in our usual setup right now. We are doing this one remote. So again, apologies for the audio quality there for our podcast only listeners. Let's go ahead and quickly jump into this. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Utah versus Weber State game. What's your takeaways on that game?
Well, the offense was lackluster. I think we all kind of expected the Utes to come out and just score 65 or 70 points on Weber State. Really kind of truck them. The defense looked phenomenal. They only gave up the one touchdown. And that was realistically after like one busted defensive play where he got like a 45-yard run. They ended up kind of jamming it in the end zone. But the offense, we're going to need more from them. And the defense looked really good. I think it was a really good game for the University of Utah to get some more reps under some of these second and third string players and continue to get ready for a very talented UCLA team this week.
Yeah, let's go ahead and definitely jump into that. I do want to point out that I'm noticing a little bit more of the first quarter offensive woes for the Utes that we were hoping not to see this season. I'm starting to see that we may have something kind of like that brewing so far this year. Hopefully we see them right the ship as they enter conference play. Let's go ahead and pivot to that. So we have Utah ranked number 11th from 12th up to number 11th this week. They are 3-0 beginning their Pac-12 play against their first ranked opponent of the year, which is the UCLA Bruins, ranked at 22nd. What's your first thoughts about this game?
This is going to be a great one, man. This is going to be a really good football game. This is two really talented football teams. We've said it in previous episodes, but Rice-Eccles Stadium is a very, very difficult place to play football. It is going to be a factor against this UCLA team who has a freshman quarterback. And don't get me wrong, Dante Moore has been fantastic through the first three games. Great, playing great football, scary good football. But he hasn't played an environment like this, and he hasn't played against a Utah defense that is going to be ready to run and get all over him.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. 100% agree. It's going to be a good game. On that note, the Bruins have not won a game in Rice-Eccles Stadium since 2015. The freshman quarterback from UCLA, he was 10 years old the last time the UCLA Bruins won in Salt Lake City. So, and also the Utes have won 16 straight home games going back to their 2018 loss against the Huskies there. So, it's definitely going to be a tough place to play. The numbers back it up. And, if you've ever been to a game at Rice-Eccles Stadium, right?
Absolutely. It's loud. It's intense. The crowd is into every single play. And especially if they get going, it's deafening. And I mean, the altitude's going to get to you. I mean, just all the combined factors, dude. The Utes get rowdy when you're in Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Absolutely. So as far as the spread on this one here, we got the over-under at 51. Are you taking the over-under on that one?
Ooh, I'm going to have to go under on 51. I don't believe the UCLA offense will be able to produce as many points as they have in these last couple of weeks. This is going to be a much different defense than the three kind of gimme games that they had scheduled before meeting our Utah Utes.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the Utes favorite to win. They have a 4.5 points favorites in this one. So that's going to be interesting to see if they hold that. A lot of the big talking points has been exactly what you talked about, the fact that UCLA has come up with these big scoring games against their opponents. And I don't know. I actually have another over-under for you. I'm going to throw this one at you kind of as a lateral here. I'm going to set it at 21. Over-under, do the Utes hold the UCLA offense under 21 points this week?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yes.
I have to agree with you.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. Even though they've had this just ridiculously prolific offense, 300 yards in the first game, 550 yards in the second game, 614 yards in their third game. You would think these guys are really tuned up and ready to go, but none of the teams they have played are going to rush the quarterback, have lockdown corners, and have linebackers that are going to be blitzing you every couple of plays and putting this freshman quarterback in a really, really difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and talk a little about quarterback. Let's go ahead and jump into that a little bit. So before the game, actually, before Saturday, we have a decision for the Utah medical staff coming down on Thursday. It was announced in press conference that they would decide on whether or not they're going to be clearing Cam Rising to play this weekend. What are your thoughts on that?
My personal opinion is I think Cam's playing this weekend, man. I think the Utes staff. I think this was actually probably their target week to really get Cam back by. I think getting him ready for Pac-12 play is very, very important. I mean, the Utes' goal is to win a Pac-12 championship and move on to compete for a national championship. And Pac-12 play gets very difficult, and you've got to have Cam Rising back to put this offense back on its legs, score some points, get that defense off of the field. I mean, that's super important for the Utes moving forward. Is you need an offense to get that defense some rest. So it's going to be important, man. Having Cam back is what makes this Utah football team turn.
Oh, yeah, especially, with the 3,000 yards that he threw last year for 26 touchdowns and also rushed 465 yards himself with additional 6 touchdowns that way. I agree. I think they probably would have had Cam, in the Weber State game if he was 100% ready to go. I think they really need that extra week to kind of just dial things in. If the medical staff clears him, I don't think there's any way he doesn't play and doesn't start against UCLA. So I have to agree with you there. Did you hear Witt's comments this week in his Monday press conference?
I kind of saw the headline on the article, but I don't know how deep I read into it. What's going on with that, man? Okay,
so this is interesting. So apparently a lot of Bruins writers and a lot of people down in Southern California are taking a little bit of a slight towards Witt's comments. This is what he said in a press conference on Monday. Typically you have offensively and defensively 35, 36 guys that you figure in prominently on what you're doing. We are down 16 of those and have 20 left. It starts to get really thin. Like I said before, I'm sure nobody cares. I'm sure UCLA is very thankful that we're beat up. This rubbed a lot of the Bruins beat writers saying that that's a slight towards UCLA from the University of Utah. What do you think on that? Is that just Kyle Whittingham doing a little bit of gamesmanship there, or do you think he meant ill will by it?
I don't think he meant any ill will. That's just not who Kyle Whittingham is. I think he meant it just kind of like he said it, dude. If you're the UCLA Bruins, you are very happy that you're not going against a full-strength University of Utah football offense or football defense. The offense is prolific when Cam Rising's there, and you have Brant Keithy back. And on the defensive side of the ball, when you have Connor O'Toole back and Samote Pepa and Junior Tafuna, that defense is a lot tougher, a lot faster, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. And this UCLA team is going to struggle if any of those guys are back. I mean, this is a ridiculously talented football team. And when you take any of those guys out of the equation, it is advantage UCLA. So, I think he was just being honest, man. That's my opinion.
I think it's a little bit of gamesmanship there. I think he knows. I think he's just trying to put a little bit of false confidence in Chip Kelly's subconscious there to kind of give himself a little bit of an edge. Try to keep him, like you mentioned in a previous episode, just make him, instead of having to plan for one quarterback, two quarterbacks, might as well make a plan for all three, right? So, especially with Brand Keevy also being out, there's actually chalks that he's more likely to lace him up than Cam is. He's probably going to be cleared. So, at least the odds are that he's going to be cleared. I don't know. I haven't really heard anything on that specifically, but that's been kind of stuff I've been reading lately. So, I just think if he meant anything intentionally by it, I think he just simply is just trying to lower the expectations of the Bruins to really come out there and shock them. Because even with, being down 16 of your best players, this Utah defense is elite. And it's still, like I said, in my opinion, the best defense in the Pac-12 easily. So before we move on here, let's go ahead and give me your key takeaway for this game. What's the key piece for you that either puts UCLA or the Utes on top this week?
I think I kind of mentioned it before, but I'm going to go with offensive play for the Utes. Whether it's Cam Rising in there running the offense or Nate Johnson coming in to run the offense, they've got to be able to sustain drives and, put together some runs, run some clock off, get that defense off of the field for sustained amounts of time so that they can get a breather, come in and be able to play 100% against this UCLA offense that's been prolific in the first 3 games of the season. It's going to be very important for them to, again, just continue to keep that to keep that defense off of the field.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense there. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. For me, what we talked about before goes back to how the UCLA Bruins haven't really played anybody yet this year. Their 3 games have basically been right-in wins. They haven't played anybody from a Power 5 conference. They haven't really had to deal with any elite competitive defense so far this season. The exact opposite can be said for the University of Utah. They have played 2 teams from P5 conferences, and they have really kind of shelled out and shown how they were supposed to win in all 3 of those games. So I think that's going to be my key takeaway there, is that while UCLA hasn't really played anybody, it isn't going to be ready for this stacked Utah defense. I don't think their offense is going to hold out. I think Utah has been tested enough with its second and third string quarterback in order to basically come away with a win this week.
I absolutely agree. Playing a really talented Florida team, a really talented Baylor team, and then, the tune-up game against Weber State is going to put this Utah football team in a much better position to go out there and get a win against this Pac-12 opponent.
Speaking of Power 5, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some other schools in Utah real quick here. Did you know that we are making history this week in Utah football?
I didn't. What's going on?
This is the first time that BYU and Utah are entering a P5 schedule in the same week.
Really?
Yeah. With BYU's independent schedule over the last 10 years or so, and this will be the first. So I found that to be very interesting. This is the first. I thought that was pretty interesting. And
that's almost hard to believe, man.
Yeah.
BYU and Utah are both very respectable football programs and have been for a very long time. To think that this is the first time in history that they're both entering a P5 schedule is pretty crazy.
It is. It really is. Speaking of the team down south there, BYU, they get the biggest comeback win in recent history over there, over 38 points to come back and win on the road against Arkansas, an SEC team. What's your takeaway on that game?
That's a great win for BYU, man. They fought and they clawed and they did everything it took to get back in the football game to win it. I'm worried about Keaton Slovis. He is a very talented football prospect that BYU was really excited for. And he's got some really good weapons around him to throw the football to. And I feel like he struggled to kind of get into a rhythm to put BYU in a position to really, really be successful. There's a reason you got to have the biggest comeback in program history or whatever that may be to get this one done. And they just couldn't get it going, man. I watched most of the game. I was cheering for BYU as crazy as that was, just because I really dislike any SEC team. But Arkansas is a quality program, man. I think they're on the upper half. If they were into the Big 12, talent wise, they're probably in the top 5. Any SEC program is going to be loaded with 4- and 5-star talent. And that's what Arkansas is. Their quarterback, KJ Jefferson's been really good for a long time. I followed him actually out of recruiting. I don't even remember how I got into following him. But he's a really talented guy. And And BYU did everything they needed to, and I hope that they use that confidence to roll on and get going into this what could be a very tough Big 12 schedule for these guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For both these teams, neither one of their schedules gets any easier from here on out for either BYU.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, you want to pivot over to Major League Baseball?
Absolutely. That's my favorite.
All right. Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So we've got a few key things I want to talk about. First, let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of history that was made this year. Our friends, the Baltimore Orioles, right? We talked about that.
I do know the Baltimore Orioles. I've heard of them.
Yeah. They're a team in Baltimore, and they're named the Orioles. And, that's pretty much what most people know about them.
Black, orange, birds.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Something about a bird. Yeah. But, yeah, they're actually coming out. We talked a little bit about them on the Hot or Not. They've been the team that we've said has been hot. They've also been on our show and in the news talking about how they suspended their broadcaster for basically just stating facts. So we've talked about these guys a little bit. They are actually one of the only two teams as of time of recording this to actually clinch a playoff berth in the American League. So let's go ahead and quickly touch on one thing that happened for them that was basically Major League Baseball history. They are the first team in baseball history to defeat all other 29 teams in the same season.
No way.
Yes.
Is that a real stat?
Yeah. I mean, there are some talks about the fact that the Blue Jays,
Canada doesn't count.
Yeah, Canada doesn't count. Exactly. So the Toronto Blue Jays may have done it, but we're talking about American baseball here. So sorry, Canada. They're the first. I just couldn't find anything that corroborated that the Blue Jays actually did it first versus Baltimore. So the fact that I see it reported by multiple respectable outlets, I'm taking Baltimore. So that's basically where I'm going with on that. But yeah, with the expand, we had one of our first videos we did was about the new rules in baseball. And one of the changes was the fact that you're not going to be playing your same division and getting beat up on each other for 45 games a year. Every team is going to have to play more interleague games, which means every team's going to see every other team. So this is the first time that the Baltimore Orioles played every other team, and they're the first ones to actually get a win against every other team. So that's pretty impressive.
That's actually a really cool statistic, though, especially if it's the first time it's been done in baseball. To think that no one's ever beaten every other team in baseball is, again, kind of just crazy.
Oh, yeah. And the other team to solidify their spot is the Tampa Bay Rays. So they have also clinched a playoff berth as well. They've actually just announced that this came out today, actually, which is something we're probably going to have to make a video on because we talked a little bit about teams relocating and stuff like that. The Tampa Bay Rays just signed agreements to build a new stadium in St. Petersburg. So, which is a huge miss if you ask me, because basically what you're doing is you're building a stadium just slightly further from the place that people already said they hate going to a baseball game. You still have to cross that damn bridge, and it's still going to be hard to get to the stadium. So I don't know if this was a smart move by Tampa Bay Rays to build a team in St. Petersburg, build a new stadium.
It sounds like a desperation move to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's plenty of other things they could have done. I would have gone to Orlando. I would have relocated somewhere else. But yeah, anyway, good on the Rays for clinching a playoff berth. Let's go ahead and switch over to the National League and talk about the only teams in Major League Baseball to actually clinch their division, not only just a playoff berth, but their division. Let's talk about these two teams. And that would be the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Do you know what's going on with these two teams?
I know they've got some really good players on these two teams.
Fair enough. Yep, it's a good statement there. So basically the MVP, the National League MVP race has really heated up. Originally, this was pretty much Ronald Acuna's thing there, in the video that I called that it was going to be Carroll from the Diamondbacks to win it, but he got hurt, and then Ronald Acuna just kind of came in there and just kind of took off. Well, in the last 3 months, Mookie Betts has made it a point to say, well, hey guys, think about me here too. You've got the two best players on the two best teams now being the two front runners for the MVP, and honestly, it's pretty neck and neck. Why don't I go ahead and read off some of the stats here that may surprise you at how similar these two players are. So both of them are the leadoff hitters on their respective teams, both Mookie Betts for the Dodgers, Ronald Acuna for the Braves, right? They both predominantly play in right field. They both were an all-star this year. and they both are leading the other in 6 different offensive categories. So, and to make it even better, the number 3 and number 4 ranked odds-on favorites to win the MVP are the other team's first basemen in Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman. So, the only in baseball can this kind of stuff happen. Only in baseball because these kind of stats align. But so let's go ahead and break it down. First of all, what's your first take on this when it comes to these two and the MVP race?
The MVP has always been an offensive-based kind of performance, right? It's always been who can hit the ball the best, who can really put up the numbers. So the fact that you've got 2 players that are just killing it for their teams, I mean, that definitely doesn't surprise me. I think it's very interesting that they're so similar in so many categories. But I don't know, man, this is going to be such an exciting race to watch down the stretch.
Oh yeah. And this is how close it is. So let me go ahead and read off the stats that Ronald Acuna is leading over Mookie Betts here. He's leading them in games played, plate appearances, and hits. He's also leading in stolen bases, which he has 66, which is leading all of baseball right now, and batting average, and also on-base percentage. Mookie Betts is leading in WAR, home runs, RBI, slugging percentage, OPS, and OPS plus. So both are leading in 6 different categories, 6 different offensive categories. You're 100% right on that, on your take on that. That's the reason why Aaron Judge won the MVP last year over Ohtani, is simply because, historic home run record beats the fact that you're an MVP candidate on the offensive side and Cy Young candidate on the other side. Other than that, if he didn't hit 62 bombs, he definitely wouldn't have won the MVP. It would have gone to Ohtani all day. But yeah, so the key offensive stat for me when it comes to this, when it comes down to the MVP, if it comes down to these two, then you got to go after the main stat, which would be WAR, which is wins above replacement. Now that one has Mookie Betts on slightly giving him the edge at 8.0, and Ronald Acuna is at 7.6. So, that gives Mookie a little bit of the edge. And again, there's just a few things that I think would kind of give Mookie the edge. Like if I had to pick between the two, now keep me right. So don't get me wrong here. Either one of these players deserve to win this award. If Ronald Acuna gets this, 100% deserved. If Mookie Betts gets this, 100% deserved. I'm not going to be upset either way. But in that type of situation there where I had to pick one, I would pick Mookie, not just because I'm a Dodgers fan, but because, again, the WAR is kind of like the de facto number there that basically states your value, whether or not you're the most valuable player on your team or not. And Mookie's WAR is higher than Ronald Acuna's. And really kind of the only main reason why Ronald Acuna has really been talking about a lot is that it's those 66 stolen bases. I honestly don't think that he would be in this conversation right now if Major League Baseball didn't change the rules and make the bases bigger. And so he wouldn't have 66 stolen bases. He wouldn't have
But they did.
Exactly.
They did.
He can capitalize on it. Absolutely. But if you take away the fact that the MLB changed the rules, that would pretty much take him out of contention. And honestly, I think he's taking it away from Matt Olson, who, is on a historical pace on home runs right now for the Braves, with almost over 50, I believe, at the time of recording, just doing a killer job, just smacking the ball around. So between that and also the fact that Ronald Acuna pretty much predominantly plays right field, but you got Mookie Betts, who has started in 3 different positions over 10 games this season. He played shortstop, second base, and right field. For all those, I think that's why in my opinion, Mookie Betts does edge out Ronald Acuna Jr. As the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. But again, like I said, if anybody wins this one, it couldn't go to a better guy. They're both well-deserved.
Crazy. I love it, man. I'm excited to watch this down the stretch for sure.
All right. So there's just a couple of things I want to touch base on before we wrap it up. Let's go ahead and talk about the Padres. So the Padres we always talk about who's hot, who's not. We're going to focus on who's hot right now. The Padres are actually on a little bit of a tear. They recently have won 5 games straight at the time of recording, and which is basically kind of technically pulling them out of technically being eliminated from playoff contention. Juan Soto, probably about 4 or 5 days ago, called himself out and called the rest of the team out for playing selfish baseball, for not being willing to sacrifice people over, do the sack fly, bunt people to get people in better scoring position, and basically stating that they haven't been playing for a team. They've basically just been trying to, hit the ball as hard as they can and get a home run to try and win the game that way. What's your take on this recent surge from the Padres and the comments from Juan Soto?
My opinion is it's 100% too little, too late. If you're going to be a professional baseball team and a team as talented as the Padres were supposed to be, I'm pretty sure at the beginning of this year, you called it in a previous video that this could be one of the most talented teams in baseball this year. Oh, yeah. And for them to underperform like they have, be almost statistically out of playoff contention, you guys have got to be able to come, put it together as a team right out the gate, be willing to make a bunt or a sac fly to move runners into scoring position, and be able to do whatever it takes to win baseball games. That's all there is to it, man. You guys are all professional athletes that all want the same thing, and that's to win a world championship. And if you're not willing to do what it takes to win, you shouldn't be playing Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. Man, I couldn't put it any better myself. Wow. Great way to put it. Yeah, everybody, including myself, picked them to win this division over the Dodgers this year. I did not think the Dodgers were going to run away with this division with a 13-game lead and clinch the division with 2 weeks left of baseball. Did not see that coming. And everybody also thought they were going to be better than the Braves this year. They were going to be the crown jewel of the National League. And even the Mets weren't supposed to catch them. And, we know how the Mets went as well. But, yeah, I just was super shocked to see that. I think you're right. It's a little too late on their part. And, yeah, it's definitely disappointing to see. They already have – and they also have the Cy Young frontrunner in Blake Snell for the National League. So they've had good pitching. It's just, just during the moments where it's important with winners in scoring position and clutch at bats, they just haven't been able to put it together. So, we'll see what happens there going forward. Speaking of professionalism in baseball, did you hear about George Kirby and his comments recently?
I did not hear about George Kirby. What's going on?
So this is a good one. This is almost a week ago, I believe, at the time of recording. He basically gave up a game tying. So basically the Seattle Mariners are kind of fallen off a little bit. They are now, I believe, out of wild card contention by like a half game or a game, depending on, when this gets put out. So they haven't been really playing winning baseball. They did just recently get swept by the Dodgers. During a game, Kirby was pitching and like I said, he gave up the game-tying home run. And in an interview after, he stated to the press what went wrong. He says, "I wish I wasn't out there in the 7th, to be honest. I was at 90 pitches. I didn't think I needed to go anymore," was his response after giving up the game-tying home run. He was then asked if this was a conversation he had with management. He then responded by saying there will be a conversation soon. Give me your thoughts on that real quick. Go ahead.
This absolutely drives me insane. Like I was just mentioning, whatever happened to having a winning mentality straight out of the gate? This guy's a professional pitcher, man. Mm-hmm. You've got to go out there and think, I don't care if it takes 60 pitches to win this game. I don't care if it takes 160 pitches to win this game. I'm going to go out there, and if I'm the best pitcher, which, as a professional athlete, you should think that every time you step on the mound, right? Advantage me. I've got stuff that you can't hit. Plain and simple. You should be able to go out there with the confidence that I'm going to take down every batter until the game's over. And if anybody wants to come out of the game again, why are you playing baseball, dude? You're a professional athlete. Go out there and throw pitches until the coach decides that you're done.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're 100% right on your take there, man. And you're not the only one who thinks so. There has been lots of backlash from this kid's getting on X, formerly known as Twitter, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the tweets that came out against this. So you have the Cy Young Award winner, Roger Clemens, all-star pitchers, Mark Mulder, Jared Weaver, Brandon McCarthy, Dallas Brannon, and World Series champion, Doug McKinstry. I can never say that guy's last name. We're just gonna call him Winner Doug. Basically opened up and berated this guy on social media after this game. So here's what some of them had to say. Mulder said, "Can't imagine ever having that thought at any point on the mound or during a game, much less repeating it to reporters. Crazy how someone can be so mentally weak who plays this sport on such a high level." Jared Weaver also responds, "This is why I will never any kind of coaching in the big leagues, to be honest." That sentence doesn't make any sense, but that's actually the way it is. I shouldn't have been out there. I threw 90 pitches. And I can't say that word on YouTube.
Beep.
Exactly. Embarrassing, truly embarrassing. And then, one of the other pitchers, we're going to call him winning. What's his name? You have 3 weeks left of a playoff race, and you don't want to go after 90. Sadly, this is how most minor league systems are developing starters these days. And then Roger Clemens, the Rocket, said, "This is tough to hear. Wouldn't fly in the old days. Unfortunately, this is how players are being taught with modern analytics." And then McCarthy also said, "But don't know all the details here, but it's really weird. I get the feeling if you're out of gas, but can't imagine ever verbalizing that publicly." So these are all different statements that basically made. Now I kind of have to agree with them and you on this. Like, you're your own man, you're your own professional athlete. If you honestly felt like you didn't have anything left after and you couldn't go back out in the 7th inning, you should have just said, "Hey, Skip, can't go out there, man. I don't got anything left. I'm throwing, meatballs out there," and they would have obliged. It would have taken you, but you decided to go back out there. You felt that you were still the best option for your team, and then you decided to throw your manager underneath the bus after the fact. I think that's a bad league. That's a bad look.
Oh, it's a really bad look. It's a really bad look, and it makes. I think people in our age bracket and even people before our age bracket miss when pitching was an absolute art, that complete games were a real thing, man.
Oh yeah.
Pitchers used to actually throw, like, relievers were specialty people, because if you had a starter, their plan was to go all 9. Like, if they got out there and they had a bad inning or they got a high pitch count, like, that's what you had relievers for. But your starter was your finisher.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Maddux, John Smoltz. I watched the Braves growing up as a kid, man, and these guys came out and they wanted to finish games because they were the best option for their team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And he kind of walked it back after the fact. The very next day, he tells reporters, "Obviously, I screwed up. That's not me. Skip always has to pry the ball out of my hands. Just super uncharacteristic of me as a player, who I am on the mound. I love competing." Again, you're definitely going to walk that back after that, because your management said, "Hey, look, if you ever want to pitch in this league again, you're going to make a statement against that." But yeah, he's really struggled of late. 0-1 in his last 4 starts with a 6.00 ERA over his last 4 starts, which is obviously not good. And you could always obviously feel bad. As a young kid, I couldn't imagine having 20 reporters stick a microphone in my face and berate me after a bad start after I just blew the game myself. But I don't think I would ever find myself in a position where I blame somebody else, let alone the manager. So
there's a reason he immediately regretted that decision.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, all right. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. Actually, there's one more thing we need to talk about, and that is Adam Wainwright. Do you know about what happened with Adam Wainwright this year?
I didn't see that.
Okay, so how I always joke that players are older than me. This guy literally is as old as me. He is 41 years old. Yes, I am that old, YouTube. I am 41 years old. Sorry, Adam Wainwright is 41 years old. Coming into the season, he had 195 wins on the record. So obviously, and then he announced that this would be his last year. So he's retiring at the end of the season. So he would have probably bet you would bet at the beginning of the year, getting to 200 wins would probably be pretty easy, right?
You would think so. To get 5? Yeah.
Yeah. So he got 3 during the first couple months, and he was sitting at 198, 198 wins, and then he went on the injured list. And then he went on the injured list for about a month, came back, got another win, and then went on the injured list again. And then for a month and a half, just got lit up and took an L every single game or an indecision every single game for the next, I say 6 weeks, right? And
no.
Yeah. So we're coming down to the last 2 weeks. He's got 3 more starts, I think, if you break it down. And, well, he pulled it off. He got number 200 last week. Earlier this week. What day is it? Tuesday? So probably the weekend. He got number 200, and you wouldn't believe how he had to get this done. He pitched 7 innings of shutout ball, and the Cardinals ended up winning 1-0.
Do you think he complained when he got to 90 pitches?
I don't know. Probably not. I think he probably went into the locker room and into the clubhouse and got some ice on that elbow and that shoulder and been like, "Oh, thank goodness."
He's like, "It's my last season anyway, man. I'm gonna tear the wheels off of this thing."
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals went from first place to last place in their division. They really just couldn't get it together. So it was nice to actually have a nice little highlight at the end of the season for Cardinals fans. And Adam Wainwright, he's literally been a Dodger killer most of the Dodgers postseason runs in the early teens there. So true competitor. We'll keep going out there as long as he feels like he has stuff to do. And I think that's super awesome that he actually got to 200. So congrats to Adam Wainwright.
Super awesome. Congratulations, man.
You got anything else for us, AJ?
That's what I got, buddy.
All right. Well, once again, folks, if you are listening to this, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is available as a podcast. It is available wherever podcasts can be heard. If you'd like to see the full episode of what we talked about today, it's also available on YouTube underneath podcast. You'll see the playlist at the end of the video on that side.
Yep. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like it, make sure you share it, and make sure you hit subscribe on some of the other videos we talk about a giveaway we're doing. Make sure you check it out.
Absolutely. Once again, folks, my name is Darren. That is AJ, and this has been the DNA Sports Recap.
Till next time.